Joining us to break it down is economist Andrew Bush. So Andrew, break down the numbers for us. What are consumer price index figures looking like?
Well, from the CPI standpoint, it's not good, but it is softening. We had a peak of over 8% in the United States just a few months ago. Last month, it dropped down a little bit, but it still remains very, very high. And this, of course, is eating into consumers' pocketbooks, especially for things like oil and gas and, anything to do with their autos and food. And so that takes away from discretionary spending for things like that are on sale on Black Friday.
Right. So, what are economists actually forecasting for the holidays, and how are retailers responding to, the chance that there's going to be a lot less sales?
Right. So I think we're looking at somewhere between 6 to 8% increase over last year. And last year was a boom because 2021, people, had a little bit of a revenge spending for not spending very much during the shutdown. So it was up 13% last year, only 6 to 8% this year. But the thing to keep in mind is that retailers overbought a while back. Their inventories are really high, whether it's Walmart, Target, Macy's. And so they've been running Black Friday sales really since the beginning of November. So I would expect Black Friday and maybe Digital Monday or Tuesday, I forget which one it is, to be not as robust as they've been in the past because these sales have been going on.
Right. Cyber Monday. So, what I actually want to know is, are there any real deals to be had right now?
Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of things that are coming out there. Consumer electronics especially, I think there have been a big increase in inventories by companies because consumers, in 2021 and 2020 bought a lot of electronics because they were forced to work at home, because they were staying at home a lot. Now, not so much. And so the spending really has shifted away from goods towards maybe things like services and experiential things like vacations, hotels, going out to concerts. The Taylor Swift disaster when it came to the tickets is a good example of the demand for things that are more along the lines of services rather than goods.
Right, absolutely. So I guess the question is inflation actually hurting sales?
Yeah, I would say so. And we have to disaggregate, like with places like Costco, they have sales, but you have to kind of take away their sales of the gasoline sales that they have, right? So you have to disaggregate that, separate it, so it gives a better picture of that. I would say the big question right now is consumers in the United States have been using their credit cards a lot and have built up debt. And so it's a question of, when does that roll over? When did they say, Uncle, I'm not going to spend any more on my credit card? And then you start to see sales drop with a lot of anticipation of a recession, and really a global recession, towards the end of this year into 2023. That's the question we don't know to be answered just yet.
Well, still 6 to 8% it's not bad, right? At the end of the day, the question is, we're seeing these reports of parents buying less, baby clothing. Are we really seeing those signs of financial distress in the United States right now, in your opinion?
Not yet. It shows up in the housing market for sure. Anything that was associated with an interest rate. Auto loans is a great example of that. And housing, those are the first couple of places where you really see things take a hit. And we're only getting through some of those numbers now. It will get worse later. And as everybody knows, monetary policy works with a lag. So it takes a while for that to work through the economy and see the numbers. But I would put about a 65% chance that we'll see a recession in the first half of next year in the United States as those interest rate hike bite and consumers really dial back their spending.
Right, which then brings me to the housing market, which you just mentioned yourself. Are we seeing any shifts already in terms of the cost of housing? And obviously we know that mortgage rates have spiked, but is it as significant as we assumed that it would be?
Well, the thing is like, this isn't like 2007, 2008. This is not the global financial crisis that's about to unfold. Banks and the whole credit system is so much better here in the United States and around the world than it was back then. But having said that, the Federal Reserve here made a grave error, and they kept interest rates way too long way too low, and that generated a lot of fluff in the housing market.
Right.
And so now we're starting to see that unwind a little bit. We haven't seen housing prices drop that much, but we have started to see demand go down significantly. So again, because it works with a lag, we'll have to wait to see, as you know, as those houses sit idle and not getting purchased by consumers, their prices will eventually go down. But it's going to take a while, and we're really not seeing that much of it right now.
Well, Andrew, I'd like to thank you so much for joining us. Really fascinating.